Hello. It's 8 o'clock and it's time for our regular now slot. I'm hoping that you'll come live and welcome. My name's Yoni and I am an adopter. Also an adopted adult and I'm also a social worker. I run a Diversity Adopt, which is an organisation that supports adopters and foster carers, giving them confidence and understanding and experience with parenting sometimes difficult or challenging young people. I'm also an adoption coach, so welcome, and I'll let Keeley introduce herself as well.
Hi, folks. My name is Keeley Craw. Despite my Mancunian accent, I'm actually based in Glasgow these days. I've been up here nearly 11 years. And for almost 14 years now, I've worked as a play therapist, mainly with children who have been identified at risk or in kinship, foster, or adoption placements. Has been a lot of the children I've worked with. And just recently, actually, I have two children of my own now, biological children, and it really inspired me to set up something new. So I've just started running my own private counselling practice to support. The main focus is women who are struggling during pregnancy or in the postnatal period, and that also includes dads and non-birthing parents too. But I was just actually talking to Yoni too, just about how, that kind of postnatal depression does not always just impact on birthing and biological parents. It doesn't matter how well prepared you are as you've gone through the adoption process. Actually, becoming a parent, can be a huge shock, and it's such a huge change. And as for many biological parents, for adoptive parents too, there's huge gains, but there's also huge losses as well of who you used to be. So my counselling support is also offered out to adoptive parents too. But tonight we're going to talk about one of my favourite things, which is play.
Okay, thank you. Just to remind people, it's lovely that you're watching live. If you can just let us know whether you're either an adopter by putting down an A, or a foster parent, if putting an F in the comments, or if you're professional, put a P. It would be great to know who's out there. And also, if you can give StreamYard your permission to show your name, because Facebook doesn't allow us to unless you give that permission. That would be brilliant. Over the course of the challenge, the person who most engages and most comments and does all the homework, of course, will get a copy of A to Z of Therapeutic Parenting, which is this book, which is a really good, useful companion to parenting and some of the issues that you're likely to, or you might possibly face. Hopefully not all of them, but it's really helpful, a very practical guide. So just in terms of why we're doing this and why we've developed it, we really want to help adopters and foster carers to deliver the sort of the best possible care for their young people. And I work in a child-centered approach, celebrating difference, diversity, individuality, and celebrating children and young people's identity. And one of the things that I think people feel sometimes is that adoptions sometimes break down, and there's not a huge sense of proportion in terms of that, but actually it's only 5% of adoptions which run into trouble. A third of adoptions, according to Adoption UK, have some problems, but are resolved. a third have no problems at all, and a third have some significant problems in the course of that whole period. And I suppose that might be quite similar to birth children, actually. I don't, it's not that adoption is always the most difficult. So that's why we're doing what we're doing, to give people some tools and some practical help and advice in terms of how to perhaps to put the work in before those issues arise, rather than waiting until teenage years, which I know from personal experience can be a challenge, and that's with adopted children and birth children. So that's what we're about, and let's get on to Keeley's favourite subject, which is play.
Thanks, Yoni. So, what I'm going to talk about this evening is Yoni and I are really today launching what we're calling our play challenge. So, we really wanted to create this. So, if you've been following us already, you'll know that Yoni and I have talked. We've had a lot of live sessions talking about play, and in all its different forms, and we've touched on different topics because it is actually a huge topic, which is why I've got plenty to talk about. And we've also been thinking about styles of parenting too. So we really kind of felt that actually the play challenge was a great opportunity, actually, and a great thing to create, because it's giving families a chance to connect or reconnect through play. And I think at the moment in particular, that's really quite important. I think lockdown is placing a lot of strain on relationships. We maybe have anxieties that our children are getting too much screen time at home because maybe they're doing a lot of homeschooling in the day, or maybe as parents you're trying to work from home, and the kids are kind of having to kind of like watch a lot of DVDs, or they're on the computer a lot. And I know from my own conversations with other parents, there's quite a lot of guilt around that they just feel like they're shoving their kids in front of screens all the time. And these are unprecedented times, as they say, and I don't think there's any judgment on that, but it still creates an anxiety in parents. So actually the play challenge comes at a great time, because this is about you connecting with your child or children. And what we're asking is for the play challenge is that over the course of the next 7 days, just to make 3 opportunities to engage in play. So what Yoni and I have done, we've created an e-booklet, and Yoni will talk later about how you can access that. But when you look in the booklet, we've chosen 3 areas of play because there are many, and it's just about, in no particular order, you just having a try at something that kind of fits that category. And like I say, just kind of taking that time. And then at the end of that, and again, this is in the booklet, it's about having a period of reflection. So quite often, we might engage in play with our children, but we just kind of do it and we move on. But actually, just to kind of spend a few minutes, and it's not hard. We've not made this like you've got to then sit there for like half an hour doing homework, but it's just to take a few moments, actually, maybe just write a few notes down about when you've tried those play activities. What do you think went well? What would you do again, and what would you do differently? Were the things that you really enjoyed, but maybe a child didn't, or vice versa. So just having a little reflection on that, really, just to kind of stop and think actually about maybe your own feelings about play. So I think there's an assumption that because we all did it as children, we're good at play, and we like it. But actually, we maybe didn't all have positive play experiences or much opportunity to play, or maybe for various reasons we might find play as adults quite emotionally exposing or embarrassing, or it might feel immature to do. So we kind of shy away from that. So reflecting on this and kind of giving it a go alongside your child, can maybe just kind of make you kind of realize where you're strong in play and what kinds of play you actually enjoy as well. Because I think when you can find areas of play that you and your child really enjoy, it can really work really well. And I think what Yoni and I have always been doing when we've been thinking about play is about how it helps us to connect with our children and to establish good relationships and good attachments with the children. So I'll talk just briefly about the 3 areas of play and how that kind of works in terms of building relationship. So the first area we chose was active, what I'm going to just call active play, because it's quite a big umbrella. So you might actually be doing a lot of this right now, because in our limited repertoire of what we can actually do in current times, you might find yourself in the park a lot. So you might want to be engaged in quite a lot of active play. But it's thinking about, maybe play that can be done outdoors, but also play that can be done indoors. It's active as well. And if you've got a child who's very physical and has a lot of energy, they probably really love that kind of play. And play like that is great because it helps children to develop physically, and it makes really important connections in the brain that aren't all, that assist with other areas of learning and development that aren't just always about physical development too. Just as I'll give you like a really interesting example. If a child walks on a beam or a wall and they're putting foot in between foot, it actually helps them improve their handwriting. So there's all these different areas that it kind of affects. But in terms of developing relationship, through active play, it's great because it often takes like a lot of communication and cooperation. For example, if you're playing like football, you'd be talking about pass the ball or try this. If you're working on little teams, you'd be cooperating with each other. If you were trying to complete a physical task together, there's a lot of conversation goes on there.
Is it quite important for both genders to be doing that sort of play? Because sometimes you think it's just boys who get in that active physical play.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's really important because there's a lot of kind of physical activity that actually really helps with all development, and that's important for boys and girls. And one of the things it does when children are dangling upside down, and I've got to think, my mum always told me not to, I'd be like hanging off the edge of the bed. She'd always tell me it was really dangerous because the blood was rushing to my brain. But actually, I'm sure a lot of the things like old wives' tales, but things like that actually help. It's a really big word. It's called proprioception. I hope I've got that right. But it helps children to kind of gain that sense of themselves and their space and the physical space. So sometimes when you've got children who don't seem to kind of, they're not aware of other people's boundaries and they get quite close, or, it's because they maybe kind of, they've not developed that area fully, or, if they just seem to kind of struggle, just like, manipulating things with their hands, or, just kind of like using the body, it's really important for them to kind of develop, that kind of sense of themselves physically. So it's definitely an area that needs to be covered with boys and girls for physically, but I think also for the messages it gives as well, that girls are also, very able, and it's important for them, to have a physical side to their life as well. It's not just the preserve of boys. So, and I would say that for anything, because there's other bits, like as I've took our second area is imaginative play, and again, that can be quite a stereotyped area of play as well. Expectations of what a boy or a girl should be playing. And if you've got a child who's a great thinker or has a wild imagination, they'll love that kind of play. And again, it's a chance to really engage with each other, because you can go on a journey together. If you follow the lead of the child and their imagination, you might be able to kind of add a little bit of input into there too. But it's a great chance for you to listen and follow the children in their story. So again, it's creating a kind of connection and a sense with the children that they're being heard. And the last area of play we've chosen is actually art and crafts. So great for the doers. For those who, and what we've done is, I think often we think of art and craft, and it just maybe, if you're thinking of automatically one word, it might be messiness. And sometimes, we've got enough mess to clean up as parents anyway. Do we want to generate any more? So we've got activity suggestions in there for for messy play, like finger painting and things like that. But we've also put in some suggestions for like cleaner art and crafts activity too. And there are some children that just genuinely don't like being messy. It's maybe just too stimulating for them or discomforting for them. So we put some cleaner art and craft activities in there as well. And I just think when you're creating something together, that really strengthens a relationship too. You've worked together and you've built something tangible together is great for a relationship as well. And some of the themes that we've got, there will be an overlap. So, and craft activity might also be really engaging a child's imagination as they're making something, or an activity play can also be a lot of fantasy in there. So you might have kind of made a castle together, or if you're familiar with the game Floor is Lava, so you can't touch the floor, you've got to, it involves jumping on
Right, yeah.
sofas and cushions. But it's about imagination, but it's also very physical game as well. So that's what we've kind of chosen as areas of play.
Brilliant. I was thinking of the book that I was reading, Brené Brown, who talks about people sort of seizing the day, getting the most out of life. And what one of the things that really struck her was that the people who sort of lived in the moment, all of them universally had a creative side. And I thought that was quite interesting, because adults don't really always indulge their creative side, and so it's really important that we do nurture that in our children and in ourselves.
I think it is. It's important to nurture it, because it's just, if you believe in souls, it's good for the soul. It's good to do to kind of nurture that and have a kind of creative outlet, for your emotions is really good. But I also think, it's also a really useful skill just to have in life, isn't it? I think, if you only ever thought kind of quite rigidly and logically about things, and when you encounter the challenges of life, and none of us get away with with not having some challenges in life, it's often sometimes being able to kind of think creatively and flexibly about these things that actually kind of help you make the transition through that problem or that challenge. So instead of spiraling down, we're all allowed to feel kind of rubbish about things for a while, but if we can kind of then put on our creative hats and think, well, how can I get around this problem? It's a really valuable tool to give to children. It's a valuable tool to have ourselves. So this play challenge, might help you to kind of start thinking more creatively as well. So you can start to kind of think outside of the box a little about the challenges you face. And let's face it, we've all got some similar ones at the moment. So it is really important. And actually, speaking of Brené Brown, she's talked, I mean, she's wonderful, isn't she? And she talked a lot about vulnerability. And I think there's probably a lot to learn there when we think about play, how sometimes it can make us feel vulnerable. But kind of going with that is really important. I know, Yoni, you've been reading quite a lot about Brené Brown just now, so you might want to expand on that. But I think it is going with our vulnerability.
I think it's what she talks very much about is how you can't really be engaged or express love without that allowing to be yourself to be vulnerable. And I think that that's such an important message, particularly for us when we're caring for children who have experienced loss and grief and trauma, because so many of their strategies that they've used to survive have been the ones to sort of overcome that feeling of vulnerability and feeling of being at sea, or at risk. And those strategies may have worked within that experience with birth families, but obviously transporting it into a family where there are different dynamics, then they become problematic. You have to see where the behaviour is coming from. So yeah, it's quite a useful way to frame how children are.
Yeah, and that's where play can be a great way to do that. So what I've always found when I've done play therapy with children, and often they're just the children you've described, Yoni, the play kind of creates some kind of buffer, some kind of safety, so the children can communicate with in the play and kind of express some of what's going on to them without having to try and find the word or kind of feel exposed by the language, but they can do it safely in the play, and it can really nurture and encourage a relationship. So you might be in the process of becoming an adoptive parent, so this is great kind of experience to have, to think about play, to try and feel more confident about play before the children come into your care. Or you might find that your relationship with your children is really difficult. And this could be, a great way round. I think quite often we look to professionals like CAMS and social work, and that's not to discredit the work that they do. But I think it's also realising that we've got resources within ourselves to handle too, and it might actually kind of involve a bit of like what you say, Yoni, the vulnerability and the exposing yourself and acting a bit daft sometimes. But actually, you can model that, and it frees the children up actually, to kind of they can be like that too, that they can be fun and playful and daft as well. That can be quite liberating for a lot of the children who have had to some children have never really had a child, have they? They've just, they've lived really like adults from a very early age. So, to allow them to be childish and to be playful, it was a real powerful thing to give them and to give ourselves.
No, absolutely. So, just thank you, Emma, who's a foster carer, and 2 Facebook users who are adopters. So there's a range of people watching, and if you're watching on the replay, do let us know which you are. So how is the challenge going to work? How can people get involved?
Okay, so you can start. So Yoni will put links up about how to access the booklet that accompanies the challenge, and then really it's just up to you to kind of think, right, okay, over the course of the next 7 days, I'm going to try and just find time to make 3 play sessions, and we'll try one of each style of play. Now, I think what's important there is to not try and force it. So you're not going to say, right, at 2:00 on Wednesday afternoon, we're going to play. So if the kid not in the mood for it, then I was afraid Mummy said, you're on a high road to nothing. You can't really force children to play. It takes the joy out of it, and it'll probably just end up with people getting cranky. So just try and choose times. I know it's hard especially when we're all at home and you're trying to maybe kind of you're trying to do work or working from home as well, and the kids have got the homeschooling, but just find a piece of time. It doesn't have to be a huge amount of time. The stuff like the active play, the imaginative play, can be fairly short things. The art and crafts, you can they can be quite short activities. We've put suggestions in there in the booklets, but you can choose whatever you like, just as long as it kind of comes under one of those themes. You can choose what you like to do. So kind of choose those 3 times in the week. Take a little bit of time yourself afterwards. Maybe ask the children once you finish it, what do they like, what parts didn't they enjoy, would they do that again? But also kind of ask those same questions of yourself and just write a few notes down with that.
Okay.
Notice what the children seem to enjoy in each of the activities.
What I'll do is put a post for each of the 3 different kinds of play within the groups, and then you could add as a comment what your experience of that particular kind of play was. That'd be helpful. And the booklet, there is a link to the post, but I'll also put it in the units because I think you have to have got a Google ID. So if people can't access that, I'll put it as a PDF in the units right at the top of the Facebook group, so you can access that really easily. And yeah, also there are some people. I had a conversation with somebody who was asking about doing it when they don't currently yet have a child placed. So I guess it's about having, and I'm thinking with myself, my daughter's now 18, and me getting her to play is probably unlikely. Yeah, unless it was a social media challenge, she might be a bit more interested in that. But we'll do something. I'll do something with the family anyway. So it doesn't have to be a child if you're not currently caring for a child. Just do it and have fun with it.
Or just try some of the art and craft activities. I don't expect you to be dressing up as like a wizard or a dragon or a caterpillar or something when you're on your own. Without children. But you could just be thinking about the kind of things you would like to do. You can do that as well. I guess at the moment we're limited because maybe if you do have other children in your family like nephews or nieces, we're maybe limited on being able to see family members at the moment. So just kind of think what it might be like, or there might be other things you could have try if you have a partner, just try them with your partner, see how that goes.
Well, yeah, I guess you could. Sometimes people will do the same activity together, but connected through Zoom or Facebook or on the phone.
Yeah,
you could try that as well.
Yeah, that's an excellent idea.
So if, sorry,
we're all zooming for everything.
We've got another session on Thursday, so would it be unrealistic to ask everyone to do at least one between now and then, and then feedback on Thursday?
Give it a go, because I think if you can, I think what we'll do on Thursday is I'll talk a little bit about maybe like some of the common pitfalls in play that we as adults can fall into, but also we wanted to open that space up too. So if you had any questions about the play challenge or any reflections on how you felt it was going so far, or just general questions about play, we'll open up that time to kind of respond to that as well. So, but if you can squeeze one in, before Thursday, that would be excellent. So,
yeah, I'm sure you will be able to. And also, if there's questions that you want to put at the end of this, the comments here on this post, linked to the live, then that would be brilliant, and we'll answer them on Thursday. So yeah, we'll have the question and answers, and then we're going to meet on Tuesday next week for reflections and things, how it's been. I really hope that you do engage in it and have fun with it, and the booklets gives you loads of ideas and doesn't need lots of investment or lots of equipment. It's just imagination and a bit of time. So, do you think we've covered everything, Keeley?
And I think your point only about just having fun with it is like a really important bit. Just have fun with it and let the children kind of take the lead and and see where that takes you. Yeah, but to have fun
Absolutely.
is probably the
And
most important bit.
and we'll feedback how we've got on. You feedback how you've got on. That'd be great. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it, and look forward to hearing on Thursday how you've got on. So have a good night and have lots of fun. Take care.
Thanks,
Bye
take
bye.
care.